Hi, welcome in. Day 47, 2 Corinthians, profound and vigorous writing. The Corinthian Christians gave their founding pastor Paul more trouble than all his other churches put together. No sooner did Paul get one problem straightened out in Corinth than 3 more appeared. For anyone operating under the naive presumption that joining a Christian church is a good way to meet all the best people and cultivate smooth social relations, a reading of Paul's Corinthian correspondence is the prescribed cure. But however much trouble the Corinthians were to each other and to Paul, they proved to be a cornucopia of blessings to us, for they triggered some of Paul's most profound and vigorous writing. The provocation for Paul's second letter to the Christians in Corinth was an attack on his leadership. In his first letter, though he wrote most kindly and sympathetically, he didn't mince words. He wrote with the confident authority of a pastor who understands the ways God's salvation works and the kind of community that comes into being as a result. At least some of what he wrote to them was hard to hear and hard to take. So they bucked his authority, accused him of inconsistencies, impugned his motives, questioned his credentials. They didn't argue with what he had written. They simply denied his right to tell them what to do. And so Paul was forced to defend his leadership. If you're looking for a clear example of someone on Christ's side, why do you so quickly cut me out? Believe me, I am quite sure of my standing with Christ. You may think I overstate the authority he gave me, but I'm not backing off. Every bit of my commitment is for the purpose of building you up. After all, not tearing you down. We aren't making outrageous claims here. We're sticking to the limits of what God has set for us. But there can be no question that those limits reach to and include you. What we're hoping for is that as your lives grow in faith, you'll play a part within our expanding work. 2 Corinthians 10, verses 7 to 8, verse 13, verse 15. After mopping up a few details left over from the first letter, he confronted the challenge and in the process probed the very nature of leadership in a community of believers. For example, Paul wanted to be partners with the Corinthians, working alongside them, joyfully expectant. 2 Corinthians 1 verse 24, and he knew cheerfully pleasing God is the main thing. 2 Corinthians 5 verse 9. Because leadership is necessarily an exercise of authority, it easily shifts into an exercise of power. But the minute it does that, it begins to inflict damage on both the leader and the led. Paul, studying Jesus, had learned a kind of leadership in which he managed to stay out of the way so that the others could deal with God without having to go through him. He saw himself as an ambassador. We're Christ's representatives. God uses us to persuade men and women to drop their differences and enter into God's work of making things right between them. We're speaking for Christ himself now. Become friends with God. He's already a friend with you. 2 Corinthians 5 verse 20. All who are called to exercise leadership in whatever capacity, parent or coach, pastor or president, teacher or manager, can be grateful to Paul for this letter and to the Corinthians for provoking it.